Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Desiree Dubois, and I'm the founder of An Empowered Woman and Homework. And Homework is where you can live where you work where you live, anywhere in the world. And so every so often we meet another founder, another entrepreneur that does something really amazing. And I'm always fascinated about their story, their challenges, their victories, and their secrets to success. So today I'd like to introduce you to Brian McGram, who is the co-founder of Boilerplate. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good afternoon. Depends on where you're at. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. How are you?
Great. Fantastic. So you're back east in Philadelphia?
I'm in Philadelphia. Yeah, I'd spent it before this. I'd spent a year in San Francisco working for a startup. Moved back east. Kind of wanted to be closer to family, but kind of brought that that strong entrepreneurial spirit, that embracing technology to try to make every part of your life easier, and brought that back with me. And then founded a company to help people that aren't as tech savvy, but still have a pain point around collecting and managing documentation.
So I have to ask you, were you born techie? I mean, have you always, like, you one of those little children that was doing this and doing that as a young child, or did it grow into you?
You know what? I was like moderate techie. So it was, one of those at Thanksgiving, you always had the uncle that was pulling you aside going, "Hey, can you show me, can you figure out why the printer's not working?"
Mm-hmm.
Those types of things. I never got into coding, but I
Mm-hmm.
always liked building. I love Legos. I love, building tree fort, that type of stuff where you can physically, build something and you're putting thought into why you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went from that to what I love about software is that it's very similar. You say, this is what it needs to do. This is what it should look like. This should be the function. And then it's like, wow, this makes it really easy for someone to use.
You're making it sound very easy. But for a person that's non-tech, it's like, ooh, I wouldn't know where to start. So, but entrepreneur, have you always aspired to be an entrepreneur? Have you ever done, I know you work for different companies, but was that new for you?
Yeah, as a kid, I was always trying to find, different hustles. I used to burn CDs in high school, but that paid for my prom and all that stuff, doing those types of things.
Mhm.
And then I have an accounting degree. The guidance was, you always have a job with an accounting degree.
Mhm.
Spent a couple years in management consulting, helping do software implementations. And that actually spawned, a little side business I tried to get off the ground doing cross-cultural integrations for foreign nationals that were coming to work in the US,
Wow.
primarily on software implementations.
Mhm.
And these individuals were brilliant technically, but if you had said, "Hey, you need to step up to the plate, let's hit this one out of the park," all these baseball terms my grandmother knows. She doesn't play baseball, but like they needed help there. So I tried to get that off the ground, got fairly far along, and then kind of 08, 09, the recession hit. And
Mhm.
basically all companies were saying, unless you can add value, help us drive revenue, this is a nice to have function. This is not a, essential service. So as I came back around to, launching this business, I said, I want something that's essential to someone's business, and the idea of being able to maintain an organized record system, absolutely essential, especially if you're in, a compliance focused field,
Mhm.
or, you have a risk of a lawsuit. Even if you're a landlord and you say, well, you know what, if I do get into a situation where I have to, move a tenant out, you better be sure you've got all that paperwork there, and you don't want to look later and say, oh, look, they never signed this, I never got this other form, I can't find this, as the most basic example. So having peace of mind, that everything's where it needs to be, I
Mhm.
felt really was, truly an essential service.
So how did you find your co-founder?
So
How did that happen?
I met my co-founder through a program called Startup School, which
Hmm.
is run by Y Combinator, which is an accelerator in San Francisco that
Mhm.
launched Airbnb,
Mhm.
Dropbox, Instacart.
Smooth. Yeah. Mhm.
And they have a great free online program. I'd recommend it to anybody that's trying to launch a business. It's called Startup School.
Mhm.
And basically what you do is each week you'll apply to get into it. I think most people get accepted. each week you report in your progress of, what's your primary metric for growing, what are your challenges, what are your obstacles, and then they'll pair you up and you'll do a group session where it's a video chat with 3 other founders that are usually in the same stage of business as you. So you get to share, your elevator pitch, you get to answer some questions, talk about your challenges, and then they help each other. Say, oh, you should talk to this person, you should check out this product, those types of things. So I met Lev, my co-founder, almost a year ago, and he was building HR software for onboarding. I was working on a project to sell downloadable business templates. We connected through this program. We did, a group session. Both were in San Francisco the next week. We met up, started talking, and it was like, about a month in, we said, let's bring these 2 ideas together. Formed our company in November, launched, our beta version to our first paying customers in January. Wow. And then kind of like the journey has gone from there. So adding features, listening to users, and then trying, I'm always going, can we build it faster? How do we,
So, it's great the fact that I know you mentioned that your co-founder, he does the technology, you're more the front person does the marketing and sales, which is a great marriage. And because that way you both can stay in your lanes,
Yeah.
and that's usually the hesitation for a lot of people that actually need that partner, but they don't get it because they're fearful of that. So it was smart that you were willing to realize that you had that part was a missing part, and then being able to navigate and grow and do it together. Because I'm sure it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more, you can move faster, as opposed to trying to do it all. And you just have much more access to, resources and expertise and so forth. So you spoke about challenges. So what have been some of the challenges thus far? Because any new business, when you're trying to get off the ground, especially technology, I can imagine.
Exactly. Well, there's always challenges, every business, for us, I had been doing before we launched the product, I had spent a lot of time, beating the bushes, getting early users lined up. And most of these people were in the services industry. So it was, someone that does a couple catering businesses, a bartending services where they were going to be using us to collect all the documentation and IDs from everybody working for them. You can't have somebody serving alcohol that's under a certain age. Those types of things. So that was kind of our initial group of customers. And then as we launched and then COVID hit, and then it was like, we're not doing anything, we're not going to any events. So we kind of had to shift our pipeline into areas where people were still super busy. We still want to serve those customers, but being able to shift to people whose business maybe has seen an uptick, like, insurance agents, that people have more time to look at, their life insurance policies or making sure their business is covered for different scenarios. So, that was one challenge, was a shift in the pipeline. The other thing was that, it is nice being in the same room as somebody that you're running a business with. I mean, not all the time, but the idea of just eating lunch together and, that conversation in passing, just like, hey, how are you making out with this, without having to schedule a meeting and hope the timing works. You're like, well, I see this person walk, getting a snack in the refrigerator. This seems like a good time to ask, you're not there with a notepad taking all the notes, but just saying, hey, how are you making out? What can I help with?
Exactly.
So that part has been a challenge. But, we're working through it. We have, we use Slack, we use different communication channels, we do regular check-ins, make it go as best as possible.
So some victories. I mean, I think that just the fact that you're able to launch in spite of all of this, and to be able to keep maintaining, your business in spite of all of this. What other victories? Was that you consider that the biggest victory? The victory?
Yeah, I think the launch, the idea of getting to the first paying customer. We were fortunate. We had that the first day. We had somebody that was interested. And that's always just like a win. And it wasn't a ton of money, but it was something. And it's saying, okay. And then that gave you a starting point for here's the additional functionality that she needs to, be successful on our platform. And then it starts to snowball a little bit. We started a paid trial with the YMCA out of Dallas, through a connection of a friend. We said, oh yeah, we just got audited, we need help, and we're like, we've got the perfect organizational system for you. So, those are, those are the victories. And then the next stage was when we started to get people evangelizing for us, going, this is awesome. I'm going to tell everybody, so we have some of those people now that are saying, yeah, I want, all my customers should have your product too, in complementary fields. So
I think Brian, what's really valuable in that, in addition to the paying customers, but also the validation. That's like such a feel good when you're because you're still always like wondering, like, is it going to be the value, or is it going to be understood? Is it going to be, how are people going to respond to it? So I think all those little things, the validation is huge.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest lesson, I would share with a lot of entrepreneurs is the old fallacy of, if you build it, they will come. Build a dream. And it's, I don't think you can emphasize enough the value of talking to people and saying, well, I think, and I'll get people that will say, oh, I think you should talk to somebody in this field. And you'll talk to them and you'll say, it's a good suggestion. You'll talk to them and they'll say, well, no, actually, we don't need this because we have something else. So you can't just go and say, well, let's build it because a tax accountant might need this. It's go out and talk to tax accountants or go talk to different people and figure out where those niches are, where those needs are. And what we've really found with our product is people that put high value on their time, are busy juggling a lot of things, one of which is a lot of documentation. So it's applications, it's onboarding materials, it's intakes, transactions, credentials, people that are doing that. And then there's also a compliance risk where it's you better have your stuff together and you have plenty of other things to worry about, whether or not your paperwork's in the right place.
So boilerplate, how did you come up with that name, and tell us about boilerplate?
So boilerplate, the name came from the idea of like templated documents, where an attorney will send you, a boilerplate agreement. You'll do, so the same documents being able to be used over and over again. And the way our platform works, you can set it up so that you can send the same requests over and over again to different people. Anybody that clicks the link can fill out the forms, give you all the files you need to submit an application. Or, the other way, if you need to send custom documents to a specific person, we're onboarding a new contractor. We need to make sure that we have a contract that has, the rate, the dates, all those things for that specific person. So we allow that to happen. So they're all kind of boilerplate documents.
Yes.
I had a few people that says it's like a blast furnace thing. And I'm like, we're like, but I'm like, clearly you don't deal with enough documentation. Like in some cases you're fortunate.
So describe it. So someone has the boilerplate, they have documents they send, and just kind of describe the movement. Because I went through your website and it was like so easy. It was almost frightening. Like, okay, where's the next page? Where's the next whatever? And the good thing is that you have like a 1-minute video. I said, well, that's probably not going to be enough. 1 minute to be able to describe the whole thing. And it was. Then you have this map, like a mind map as to like this, like a flow chart. Okay, well, it could be that easy. And then it was like, it's like and it tracks you as you go. So you kind of see what's left. And I mean, it's just like, it's so simple. It's like almost frightening. I felt like I was missing something. Like, okay.
No, it's that simple. It's that simple. So we started out, so I've been in a lot of document intensive roles. So doing disaster relief work, I was processing loan applications, I was processing grants, I was processing claims, me being the individual analyst, and this will shock you, with the federal government, there's a lot of paperwork required to do anything. And we'd be asking for the same stuff over and over again. We couldn't get a system to do it. So you're doing it by hand. You were emailing people a checklist, and then they would send the files back. You'd try to check them, make sure everything was what you needed. You'd rename them, you'd save them somewhere, you'd mark it off on a spreadsheet, and then your boss would look at the spreadsheet and say, where do we stand? So then I moved into supervisory roles where I was then managing, 15 people that were all doing this. And you're going, is this person, do they legitimately have what they need and they can't do the work? Or is the problem that, the school district or the police station or the local government we're working with, are they just slow in the documentation? And being able to see that. So we started with, okay, we need a dashboard to be able to see where a request stands. Have we sent the item to them? Have they accessed it? Is it in a spam folder? Did they actually get to it? Have they submitted the item? And then everything that gets submitted. So this person will get a link. You can either share a link or you can send it to them in an email.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go in, they'll see what they need to do. They'll fill out any forms. They'll upload any files. Could be images, could be documents, bank statements, whatever. Then everything comes back to you to review them. So it's a quality control measure. So you're not going, oh, I think I have the file, and you open it and it's a picture of their dog, and you're like, no, this was supposed to be your driver's license. You sent me the wrong thing, and it happens. We've all
I
been
can
there.
imagine. I'm probably guilty myself.
And then the issue is if it happens years later when you're going through an audit or something like that, you're like, oh, this isn't the right thing. Or in Silicon Valley, there was always the stories of somebody didn't sign an intellectual property assignment, which basically means if you're a software engineer, the company owns all the code that you've created. And people would go to raise a round of funding or go public and realize that they didn't have all the code that one of the key people created was not technically owned by the company. And they would say, well, you might have to cut me a nice check here if you want to get that.
Yeah.
So there was that's just one example. But what we do is we have a review queue. You can look at each file that comes back. You can either accept it or with a single click return it and be like, wrong document, it's expired, whatever it is, send it back with comments. And then everything that does gets approved is tracked and then accessible in our dashboard. So you see the person, you see the organization, you see the files, and then you just one click, download it, and you've got it. But it's there.
Are the files saved in your system?
Yes.
Or do you need to move them to, okay, it can be saved.
They're retained in our system. So we pitch it as basically, it's like a document collection, like a CRM, a system that actually goes out and does the emails and gets the stuff, as well as a digital filing cabinet. So everything is there. We know we're handling some sensitive information for people, especially client information and those things. So we put a big focus on security.
So I was going to ask you about the security.
Without boring anyone, we use AES 256 encryption, which is the highest commonly used levels of encryption. There's firewalls. There's a number of other protective measures. And then we're part of a program through the Department of Homeland Security where they do a weekly cyber vulnerability scan on our software. And we basically get a little report card that says, oh, you're good, or like, you need to fix this. So they don't put a guarantee on our product, but it's a really nice, belt and suspenders approach.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm sure most of the programs that don't offer that, and our own personal programs, I know wouldn't offer that kind of security, because you're so perfect for so many different industries. We talked about like the medical industries, that they have the same forms for every person, whether it's a doctor, dentist, or a hospital, whether it's the financial industry, whether it's a financial advisor or, anyone that has that information, banks, employment, HR, because there's a lot of information that goes into that, from security checks and background checks and things of that type. Also, even from the larger ones, but even to the smaller businesses like ourselves, like we have the same forms. If people tease me, they call me the second saver. Like I think like every second I spend doing something I don't want to do, I don't want to do it. So if I can save, and like it's a silly analysis, what if I save 60 seconds in a day, I've saved a minute, and blah, 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 blah. But, documents is where a lot of people fall short, and because it's so much paperwork, and especially now it's going to increase after the COVID, because again, there's more documentation needed for hospitality. There's more documentation needed for as far as the protocols in the restaurants and the hair, makeup, and even businesses that didn't even need it before are now going to need documentation that they never. And you're talking about talented people that maybe have a craft, like in like hair or styling or interior decorating or fix and flips, real estate. They just really are not designed or don't want to deal with paperwork. Musicians for their, it's so many, almost like every industry you touch, there's something they need to protect or maintain, or to get, and just to know that these industries are record companies to small people that are doing coaching, people are doing events. There's a lot of summits now, the virtual summits, and you're onboarding different speakers, as far as getting their photograph and their bios and their other collateral, their logos and things of that type. It's the same thing. So I think almost in the industry, any industry, unless it's just you and only you and forever will be you, that you're going to need some kind of paperwork and documentation, and being able to have it tracked, not to think about that. is huge. And especially the things that are repetitive, releases. Like you said, we even have events, we have rent releases, we have releases from everybody, and all those kind of things that we had to send out individually and track. This way you'll be able to sign it and get it done and put it in their folder or file. And you got, for that particular event, everyone signed a release, or everyone
Yeah,
signed this or that. So
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. We're building in the signature component. That's our next big feature coming. But yeah, the idea of saving people time, that's the one great equalizer of everybody, of no matter how much money you have, you can't buy more of it.
Hmm.
And you're absolutely right, just saving a couple minutes. And so the way our platform works, you set something up once and then you can send it over and over again. So you've got a fixed 10, 20, 5 minutes, set it up. And then every time you're going to save 10 or 20 minutes. So,
And the big thing is that too, a lot of people are getting virtual assistants, and some of
mhm,
them don't have the best, or not as fluent in English and are on documents. But you can get them at a really good rate. So being able to give someone like that, it's like almost a foolproof system. If you set it up, they can do that for you, and it
yeah,
doesn't have to be. Sometimes people are hiring people just to handle their paperwork. People have
yeah,
assistants just to handle, monitor. Real estate agents hire transaction coordinators for the sole purpose of being able to monitor the paperwork, and that all these different situations. I feel badly that some people will be out of a job, but it can replace some situations. They can be doing something else. They can be doing your marketing. They can be doing more your customer service. They can be doing your outreach that needs that personal touch. But as far as putting together and filing paperwork, it can be delegated and automated.
that is absolutely correct. Absolutely. And the idea of, we have, an insurance broker who signed on to the platform, and she said, well, my assistant spends half her time,
Mm-hmm.
chasing down documentation.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
I can if I can cut that task that's taking her 20 to 30 hours a week and can
Mm-hmm.
cut it down to 2 to 3, then
Mm-hmm.
she can use the rest of the time to do business development.
Right.
We gave
Right.
her a link. We gave her a link that she can put on her website and say, hey, you want a quote for a special event policy? Click this link. The person fills out the form. They submit the items that are needed. Here's what we need for
Mm-hmm.
your, the
Yeah.
paperwork for it. She's like, I can get quotes without doing anything. I don't even have to interact with somebody. They see this, it's intuitive of what's needed. So if I can double the number of quotes that I can give, I
Exactly.
can double my revenue. Yeah.
Yeah, and then in turn, that her assistant now can spend time talking to those people and actually generating the sale or the transaction. And because sometimes you run out of time, you can't do that. So absolutely, it's just being able to. I mean, very few people really love playing with paperwork. Let's just put it that way. So if you can get it in and get it out and get it secured and get it organized, then you just saved a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's one of those things. I joke that it's like nobody likes alarm clocks, sitting in traffic, and managing paperwork, or the three like universal things that nobody's like, yeah, I really enjoy that.
I really enjoy that. Well, this is a perfect solution, and it's affordable. We
Yeah.
talked about your pricing. I think people should know like where your starting point is. So when you said it was,
Yeah. We have plans starting at $49 a month, and it lets
okay.
you store up to up to 1,000 documents,
Mm-hmm.
in the filing system.
Mm-hmm.
Collect as many as you need to, unlimited number of returns. If somebody submits something, it's not the right thing, return it. That doesn't count against you. You can collect files either as a link that you, like I said, you can put it on social media. One lady says, I posted on, I join these insurance group, I join these groups, and I'll just say, hey, if you need a quote, click here. And they can click and they can go in and put their information in. And then they can process the next step as well, where you
Mm-hmm.
can create customized documents or forms that get filled in, specifically for that person, emailed to them. They fill everything out. And then again, you review it, track it, and store it.
So you say it's 45 or 49 a month.
49,
All right,
49 a
so that's
month.
$50 a month. And the
Yes.
average person's going to work for your system, be working for $25 an hour. I mean, I wish I could find
Yeah.
someone for $25 an hour. So that's 2 hours.
Yeah.
So if you're going to save, you're going to save 2 hours in one day by utilizing your system. So over a whole month, I mean, I look at things like that. People should be thinking about the return on their investment. So now you
Mhm.
have a person that you have even part time. If it's 2 hours a day, if it's just 2 hours a day,
Yeah.
if it's 2 hours a week, it's $50 a week, and that's $200 a month, where yours is only 45, and you've got the security, you've got the organization, and it's just a matter of just managing it. That's like a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a basic, that's what I used to do as a management consultant. You know, we would do this on a large scale with huge corporations and
Mm-hmm.
just say, and we actually have a white paper you can get to on our website that walks you through how to do it. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can go through and say, let's take all the tasks I'm doing, let's take the people that are doing them, how much we're paying them, and multiply it out and say, wow, we're spending, you know, $3,000 a month collecting documentation. Not to mention the time of the business manager who freaks out when they can't find something. And everyone has to drop everything because the boss can't find what they need.
Has that happened? Does
I
that happen? Is it a
over
true
the course
story?
of, well, when I worked for FEMA, we would get calls from senators and the governor's offices and stuff like that. So it was literally, you dropped whatever you were doing. You know, I've been pulled over on the side of a car in Mississippi, you know, on the side of the road in Mississippi with my laptop trying to find, you know, stuff for the, you know, like Senator so-and-so called, what's the, you know, where does this stand? And you're going, okay, you know, I would have loved to have just had, hey, look at the portal, you can actually see exactly where everything stands.
Awesome. Well, thank you for saving saving us those moments of aggravation, saving us hours in our months, which count to hours in our lives, saving us dollars, money, and being able to put our assistance to better use and building our businesses, and not having to worry about that minutia. So, in closing, what would you like to share with our listeners today?
So, like to share, if you're in that situation where you're juggling a lot of documentation, or you just want to get started small, we've got great opportunities. Boilerplate.co. Sign up. We do 14-day free trials. If you need a little bit more time, we're flexible. We'll work with you. But we'd love to hear your stories. We do some consultation work with it too. We really want to make sure everybody's successful on our platform, happy, and then, love us. That's the goal.
Yay, like we do. And now's the time. Now's the time for them to do it now before you just explode and you won't have any time or space for anybody else. Is that possible?
Like, I'm hopeful that someday I'm going to have more time, but like,
No, that'll be great. So thank you for sharing this opportunity with us and with our community.
Yeah.
And I wish you great success, which I know you will. Thank you for partnering with Homework and our Power 7 class, because this is how the conversation started, like what our women really need. It's a tool that they
Hmm.
need to be able to to be able to do their business without having to spend their time doing that, especially as an entrepreneur or young business, or again, from young to large, from small to large, and just being able to support us so we can support you in the same. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank our listeners for joining us today. And until we meet again, remember, homework is where you can live where you work where you live, anywhere in the world.
Thank you.